So let's go on a hunt. Let's go find fear. Let's cruise down to the store. Can we pick up a cup? Come in a package. You can get everything on eBay. Let's go look there. It is a real trip when the mind realizes that the only place that fear exists on the whole planet, the entire universe, is in the mind. It doesn't exist outside of us. That's goofy. That's empowering. That's a reality shifter. Because we've been so programmed with fear. Well, looking back to those old-time religions that Scott was talking about in the Dr. Seuss thing, how many of us would know about hell if somebody didn't tell us about it? How many just woke up one day and went, oh, hell, gosh, what's that? Don't want to go there, that's a bad place, that's a, ooh, an eternity of that, that's a really not good thing. Well, we all learned about it somewhere, and most of us learned about it from a church. Well, I love church. Heck, I'm a minister. I better. But it works out if you're going to sell a problem if you sell the solution. This is the problem, hell, and the only way to overcome that is with the solution, which we sell, and you come here and you get it. So I need to educate you on the problem so I can educate you on the solution, and then I can show you that I'm the only place on the whole planet, or we're the only place on the whole planet, or this mindset is the only place on the whole planet, or this belief system is the only place on the whole planet that will overcome the problem that we told you about, that you didn't know existed before we told you it was there. And then as you talked about in the little skit there, that if you're afraid for your people who are afraid for their souls, put much more gold and silver in the offering bowls. Well, yeah, heck yeah. If there's this big bad hell place, and we all know that we're not perfect, bless you, 100% of every day, and fear can pop in, we need to overcome that fear, so maybe we can bribe God, and we can just buy a little pass. Well, that works out pretty good. Well, then you get into the, I think about our little fish tank here, when we very first started Connections, when we very first got our little fish tank, I wanted to make the Garden of the Gods. Because so many folks believe that God was the old white guy on the throne. Because we were taught that God was the old white guy on the throne. And if you didn't believe in God, then you went to his brother, that's Hades. And you went over to Hades' place and you hung out. And so when early Christianity began, there were all the pagans who believed in all of the gods that were out there. And the Christians were smart, and they said, well, gosh, we need to convert these folks over. They said, don't worry about all those gods you've been praying to forever. Just, we got one God, pray to him. And they said, no, my family's worshiped these people for a long, long time. And they said, well, wait a second, you pray to the old white guy on the throne, right? And they said, well, yeah, well, we got one of those. That's who our God is. And if you don't believe in him, then you go to his brother Hades. And people went, oh, okay, makes sense. Let's go do that. And within a generation or two, there had been a full conversion, or a, by and large, conversion from polytheism, from the ancient Greek and Roman gods, into Christianity. Now, when we first got this, this little tank here, it decided to be our teacher. The lights quit working on that half of the tank. The fish quit swimming on that half of the tank. And the air bubbler quit working on that half of the tank too. The side that Hades was on. And so that old time thought said, well, what the heck is a minister doing with Hades in his house anyway, blah, blah, blah. I need to go take a baseball bat to that little statue. I need to drive over it with the car. I need to throw it in the garbage, and I need all these things. Because I believed in the fear that started to pop up, that maybe that's what my fish tank was trying to teach me. So Mary and I prayed on it, and as we prayed on it, we asked God, what would you have us do in this situation? What would you have us learn from this situation? And God said, what we felt we heard was, I am love. I am in all things. We said, well, if you're in all things, then you're in that little statue too, and I wouldn't want to bust that up. Now, if there were a Hades, if there were a Satan, and if Satan were fear, then to give it more fear would only to help it grow. When instead to show it love would be the exact opposite of what it represented. So instead we pulled a little statue out and we said, little statue, what would make you comfortable? And what we heard was, well, I like it in the underworld where it's dark. And so we opened up our fish tank and we put it right there in the sump pump where it was dark and it was all by itself. And then we grabbed some rose quartz up there, which is unconditional love, and we surrounded that little statue with unconditional love, and we blessed it and we gave love to that thing. And as we gave love to it, it no longer had fear for us. And for about a year, I think it liked living down there. And then at some point, the fear had been balanced with love. Put it back in the tank. The lights work, the air works, and the fish swim all over. Inside of our minds is where fear lives. We think back to childhood with, wait till your father gets home. Goodness. Oh, goodness. That's a spooky place to be. Was it ever as bad as we actually imagined? I don't know. Sometimes felt like it, most of the time not. In the New Thought movement, if you will, we're told, what you resist persists. So don't resist, go with the flow. And it's cute, makes a neat postcard. But the actual living of it part, we all have that thing or those things that we absolutely don't want to do, don't want to walk through, and will do almost anything to not have to do that one thing. For all of us, it's different. Now, in the past couple weeks, Mary and I got to walk through some of ours, which was we co-parent her 5 kids with her ex-husband. And we always wanted to keep it out of the courts. We wanted to keep it out of the state because the state could do terrible things. And so every time her ex would call and say, I need you to do more and more and more and more and more and more. She would do anything that she could. We would do anything that we could to pacify him so that he wouldn't bring it to the state. Because we had so much fear around this one thing. Well, a couple weeks ago, we brought it to the state. Mary called the state and said, okay, well, here's the paperwork. What do I got to fill out? What do I got to do? And the state said, oh, we'll just fill this out and blah, 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 and you're golden. You don't have to do this, you don't have to do that, you don't have to do this, you don't have to do that. All that's BS. That's simply his stuff. You don't have to do it. All that the state requires you to do is this, this, and this. Which was like a tiny little amount of the big mountain that we had been doing. We all have stuff. And when we look at the price of fear is our dreams. Now maybe some folks can relate to this, but once upon a time I used to work corporate and I used to grow companies and I used to have this big title and this big office and this big paycheck and all this big stuff. And at first I loved it, until I didn't. And when I didn't, I wanted something different. I wanted to do something different. But then the fear crept in. But what are you going to do? What if this? What if that? And so I kept doing this thing that I didn't want to do because I was afraid of what would happen if I didn't do it. When I finally got over the fear, what I found on the other side was about 1,000 times better than I imagined. This life right here with you guys. This is my week. Working with God, praying. Showing up saying, how can I help? Knowing that God will keep the lights on. Abundantly. What is your dream? If there wasn't an if there wasn't a but I can't, or but I don't have, or I might lose, or I might this, or I might that. What's the dream? And what, if anything, is keeping you from that dream? We're all here to do stuff, experience stuff, be stuff. Most of the things that we worry about losing, we don't want. How silly is that? We have a God that says you can. And when we're in that flow, when we're in that God zone, there's nothing that we can't do. What are you called to this planet to do at this stage in your life right now? If you could close your eyes, have a conversation with God, say, I have this one wish. I want to do or be or whatever it is, this experience, this thing. What is it? What is it? How would life be different with this thing, with doing this? I'm doing this, whatever this doing is. I'm being this. I'm feeling this. I'm loving this. And I think that we all have parts of it. We'll give ourselves permission to have a little bit or a whole bunch or walk through it completely. And it's, sometimes we do it in stages because it's easier in stages than it is to jump in. It's just like some folks getting into a pool. Some folks want to just go cannonball off the side, and other folks grab hold of the rail and take it one step at a time. And there's no right or wrong way. But if that pool is love, however you get into it, that's up to you. Take as little time or as much time as you want, but know that inside there, it's okay. We let go of the fears. And we all have those moments in life that we look at our real priorities. And 99% of the stuff we fear isn't on that priority list. The really cool thing about love is it amplifies. I love you. And 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 it all amplifies. We think about God from a parent-child relation. What would we want our kids to suffer through? What would we want our kids to have to endure or not enjoy to the fullest extent that they wanted to? Nothing. That same thing of God, that same thing of love that's inside us is the same way. We don't have to struggle with the fear. And it doesn't exist anywhere else. We can't go find it. We can't get it on eBay. So, I invite us all to stop manufacturing and instead to flip the switch from fear to love and to manufacture what you do want. That's in alignment with what you want to be connected to and live the life that we were all meant to live.